Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Clean Energy Show. I'm Brian Stockton.
And I'm James Whittingham, fresh back from vacation and completely disengaged from the world. Brian, what's been going on? How are you doing during the pandemic?
What? There's a pandemic?
Yes. Well, you see, that's what I forgot about. I went and bought ice cream and forgot about the pandemic. And but there's no cases where we are now, which just is a false sense of security. I think it's going to explode.
Things are starting to open up here and other places, but they can all close down in the fraction of a second because, things look good right now, but, I'm still pretty worried.
How's your pandemic morale? What are you doing to keep happy?
Well, as you know, I like to take a walk every day.
Yes. Somewhere different.
And I discovered, I'd mentioned this on the last episode, maybe, there's a documentary about a guy in New York City, and it's called The World Before Your Feet. And it's about this guy in New York who decided to walk every single block of every single, of all the boroughs in New York City.
Uh-huh. And
so there's a feature-length doc about this guy, and I finally watched it.
Okay. So how was it?
It's a pretty good film, and it made me realize that, what I'm doing is a fairly common thing because, in fact, in this New York film, there are other people who have done this.
Okay. They're not crazy. They're not obsessed or anything. They just don't like to be bored.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's how it started for me. It's just like, well, I don't want to walk the same route every day. Now, I'm not organized enough to, you've got to plot it out if you actually want to do it.
It's like Google Maps. Why don't you stick a camera in your head?
You need Google Maps, or I guess you could do it with a traditional map. But in the film, there was a professor that they talked to who had done it. And it took him 4 years, and it was about 6,000 miles.
Now, this was just part of his daily exercise routine?
Exactly, yeah. And but he was a professor, so I think it also, in some way, had to do with his work. But they didn't spend too much time with him.
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of like Brian's Movie Corner.
This is totally Brian's Movie Corner.
Why didn't we intro it that way? Okay.
Yeah, we should have introed that. But, and then, there was other people in the film that are doing the same thing. But the guy in the film sort of took a longer route than the professor. And he's including like all the parks and all the cemeteries and everything. So his is more like 8,000 miles and it was taking him more like 6, 7, 8 years or something like that.
Oh, okay. Wow. So how does this make you feel about yourself, about what you're doing?
Oh, well,
does it validate you, or does it enhance it in any way? Are you encouraged to do it more?
Yeah, I think it validates what I was thinking about it, and it does encourage me to do it more. But I also think I'm kind of done.
Oh,
we have, my partner and I have started a new routine where we're just walking around the lake every day, Wascana Lake.
Oh,
and
one of those people.
One of those people. But there was also 2 local news stories recently from Saskatoon that came within a week of each other. And one was about a woman who is, where is it here? Well, so there's a guy, after 4 years and 3,000 kilometers, man runs every street in Saskatoon.
Jeez.
So this guy is a runner. So he did it by running and took him 4 years. But the main thing about this story was that the guy explained he really had to do thousands of kilometers of driving to make this happen.
Oh.
Because, of course, you have to drive to a new spot every day to start your run.
Uh-huh.
So, and that was one thing because I have an electric car, I didn't feel guilty about, wasting the energy as much because it's kind of silly to drive somewhere to go walking. And this guy seemed to acknowledge that a little bit. And then there was another story also from Saskatoon. It was a woman who's doing it on bicycle.
Oh, well, that's more interesting.
Saskatoon, a woman biking every residential street before her 65th birthday.
Oh, well, okay. Now, when a person jogs, they're not really looking around. I mean, not too much. You're kind of like just concentrating on working. But
no, and
yeah,
that's why I definitely would prefer the walking approach. Yeah, you can't. The whole film, the New York City guy, it's really all about absorbing your city. And you can't do that if you're running.
No, and if I'm running, I'm just looking for my next breath. I'm just trying not to die. But biking and walking would certainly look around, unless you're on an e-bike, Brian, unless you're going too fast to enjoy the scenery, which is something that I've done.
Now, here is a really stupid thing from the film that got me very excited.
Yes.
Have you ever been walking down the street?
Yes.
And there'll be like a metal filament on the road?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like the same shape as like a yardstick, but really tiny, like only a few millimeters across and maybe a foot long, and it's made out of metal. Have you ever seen those on the street?
No.
I've been seeing those things on the street for 20, 30 years. And I've always wondered what they are.
Just laying there.
And they're just laying there, and it was explained in the New York documentary.
Really?
Yeah.
Explain.
They're street sweeping bristles from street sweeping machines.
Oh. And they're metal. Are they harmful in any way?
Not really, but I've literally been wondering about that for 30 years.
You're really paying attention to your environment. And
that's the kind of thing that you see when you're walking.
Yes. A big shout out to those who are thinking about walking, who aren't walking. It is in touch with yourself and in touch with nature.
And a shout out to our friend Ken Wilson, because he's a huge walker and he's gone on many large walks, like between cities and stuff, and he likes to write about it. Yeah. And he's a very smart thinker about this type of thing.
Ken is not listening to our show, though, so we have to email him and tell him we talked about him. Then we add another listener. Does he have email? We had another listener when we do that.
Yeah.
Who else can we talk about?
And speaking of listeners, so on the last episode, I was complaining about how I wrote the most brilliant tweet of all time.
Yes.
And there was 0 likes and 0 retweets. Well, after the episode came out, I got some likes and some retweets. So it's proof we have listeners.
That's dedication.
Yeah.
And they weren't people you know?
No, a couple were maybe, but no, it was great. It was very gratifying because the tweet was about a week old at that point. And you don't normally get lots of likes or retweets on an old tweet.
Wow,
so.
we have listeners.
We have listeners.
Let me take this opportunity to say thank you, listeners. And we like to hear from you because we want to do a better show that you like. But yeah, thanks for listening. We enjoy doing the show.
Now, I want to ask you quickly about your vacation and your trip to the lake. But I was going to, just before that, I was driving down the number 48 highway not too long ago in my Tesla. It's a single lane highway.
With the roof down.
And I got coal rolled.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a pickup truck coming towards me. We were the only 2 cars on the road.
No, this is on the other side of the highway.
Yeah, it's a single lane, so you're right next to each other. Right. And now, I guess I can't be 100% sure he was doing it on purpose, but there didn't seem to be any reason really for it to be belching black smoke. So I suspect he noticed that it was a Tesla and gave me a bit of smoke.
There should be, Elon Musk should... it's not impossible that he wouldn't do something ridiculous like this. Add an extra windshield washer fluid squirter that squirts red dye or black dye on the person who drives by.
That would be fantastic.
This is something that I would try to hook up if I was 18 years old and driving a Tesla. I would try to. Of course, that's impossible. But yeah. So that's. How did you feel? Dirty afterwards, literally, or violated, or mad, or what was your emotional reaction?
I thought, hey, I've got something to talk about on the podcast.
Always on the bright side of life, Brian Stockton. Ladies and gentlemen. The glass is half full compared to my glass is half empty side of things. Yes. Well, Brian, I am on lake time, and I saw that on a novelty sign, so I'm committed to that. I'm on lake time. I am not adjusted to the world. I have not been following clean energy news, believe it or not. I am that much into nature. So most of this show will be you, who was our correspondent in the real world. Well, I left the real world. So I do have a story, though. I brought my e-bike, and this is the first vacation. I thought it would be great for vacations. For one thing, I'm always on high elevations. I wasn't this time, although my son points out that it's a fairly high elevation Kenosee when they have trees because it's high elevation, 2,400 feet or something like that. And so the hope was that we would explore more and do more, and that's what happened. My son took the bike for a ride down it's similar to a logging road. Like it's not used very much. There's ATVs and things like that. He took it down about 44 kilometer round trip. and he had to go through mud because the road was closed. So he really appreciated that, and he's kind of against the e-bike. He's like, oh, I didn't get a workout on that thing, and that's for old men, dads. But he really enjoyed, powering through mud where you could have got stuck otherwise. Maybe if you weren't paying attention, steadily keep those wheels going if you're going through mud on a mountain bike. And he explored. He likes to explore. He's always liked to explore. He's really obsessed with exploring and maps and stuff like that. And he's 16 years old. Yep. So he had a hell of a time. And he even went through, he's very sensitive to like stimulation, like rain and things. He hates getting wet. But he just threw all that behind him when he got back. He was complaining and bickering about getting a little bit wet in a brief rainstorm on the way to where the road started. And then he got downpoured and muddy, and he was all like, yes, life, it's great. So that was great. And I had a good time. Although I have to talk about something serious. I did have a bad accident. And I'm not blaming it on the e-bike at all. Yeah. It could have happened on any bike. They had paved new roads in this provincial park, and it was very thick. It was about 5 inches thick, the asphalt on top, and there was no gradual decline down. They didn't build up some gravel on the side. So yeah, I fell down off the road trying to make way for cars, and my pedal hit the pavement, and I came to an abrupt stop. And I guess what happened was my bike flew up sideways, and my head went down into the pavement, sideways. No, it was horrible. And I was thinking to myself, bad. As it happened, you know how when you have accidents and things that a lot of things go through your mind? Well, the pavement went through my mind. I had my helmet on, and I was not going to wear my helmet. I had become admittedly lackadaisical about wearing my helmet, especially for a little trip like this. We were just going to, let's go on a little bike ride through the park as the sun's gone down. We'll just, go look at the campground for a second, come home. I wasn't going to wear it. I actually wore it for visibility reasons more than anything. And Brian, I'm here to tell you that it could have possibly saved my life. It certainly, without question, saved me a trip to the hospital and a possible concussion. I did not have concussion symptoms afterwards, although 2 days later I did have vertigo, but I've had that before, especially when I'm dehydrated and tired, which I get on vacation sometimes. So, but it was brief and it went away quickly, so we'll keep an eye on that. However, my head hit really hard, and it seems like, my thinking about bike helmets was that it's, use them for track. If you're commuting through Toronto or New York, and you might get hit by a car and thrown into another car, that was my thinking. But a simple bike ride like this, come on. And so I will not let my kids get on a bike now without a helmet. I don't care where they're going or what they're doing. My son is resistant. He's a teenager. I don't want to look dorky going to the store to get an ice cream cone or something like that at the campground or at the park. So yeah, and I'm certainly not going to do it. I have to buy a new helmet now. It looks good, but you're supposed to buy new helmets, as one of our people had pointed out online. So wear your bike helmet, people, no matter what you're doing, because you are moving around, and you never know what's going to happen. Like, I've had weird accidents before, and gotten away with it, but this certainly, I did not see him coming. In fact, I think I should probably contact the park and tell them that this is a hazard, because it could happen to anyone. Fortunately, most people are wearing bike helmets out there. So that's my public service announcement. I'm fine. Well, my skin's not fine. I actually have a festering wound I have to address after the show. Lost some skin, a shirt, but I'm alive to talk about it. And yes, when you bang your head like that, you can crack your skull wide open, and it dragged too at 20 kilometers an hour. Wow. So yeah, if I did not have my helmet on, I would not be here doing the show. You'd be having a memorial show with special guest David Suzuki. Anyway, so was it one of those things where it's sort of like everything seemed like slow motion? Yeah, kinda. It's like, okay, I'm going down, and couple times the same thing happened. It was in a grass rut, and I knew I was going down in grass, and I just rolled with it, and I felt like a Superman by not being injured afterwards. But this was bad, and so I'm here, and the helmet definitely glad it was on. That's all I got to say. So everybody wear your helmet no matter what you're doing. If you're going around the block, throw it on. It's worth it.
What's the brand? Maybe they could be our sponsor.
I forget. The brand was wiped off with a scraping on the pavement. So I'm so glad I had that helmet on, because I nobody wants a concussion either, because those have lasting effects. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to discourage anybody from e-biking. This was just a stupid bicycle accident on a very unusual situation. So, yeah.
Well, I do feel like, I don't know, it seems like the maybe some of the knowledge has been lost for how to build roads properly.
Yeah.
It seems like that stuff isn't done as well as it used to be done.
I think they're cutting corners financially. There's always less and less money in government pockets to pay for things, and the road and the labor is more expensive over time. I just want to add, though, that my family also, like my partner, did enjoy the e-bike herself, and it was these people weren't. I was always tempted to go on the fastest speed. I don't know why I'm always doing that, but yeah, they enjoyed themselves and went on lower speeds. And by the way, my what is it? It's about I forget how many amp hours my battery is, but it's a $1,000 bike, and it put on 42 kilometers through mud and at a lower speed. Lower level setting. I'm sure it could have done a lot more. So, I mean, the bike was caked with mud. It took me half an hour to get the mud off, and it was just caked with it. So, yeah.
And no issues with range on that big long ride.
No, there was no issues on range. The issues you find with range are when you go like me and use the throttle at full speed, and you're just throttling around and you're not doing enough pedaling, or if but if you select a moderate speed, which is what my family did, or even low speed, you can go, I believe that it could go for 100 kilometers on pavement. No problem under the right circumstances. So, yeah.
So speaking of range, I'm going to embark on a road trip to Vancouver.
Breaking news.
And I'm going to take the Tesla, and I'm going to stop at the various charging stations. I'll probably shoot a video along the way as well, and maybe put it up on our YouTube page for the Clean Energy Show.
Look for that as you do it, or when you come back?
I think on the way there, I'll shoot it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, are you going to post them as you go, or what will we expect as fans?
No, I'm just going to make one video at the end of it.
Oh, okay.
For people interested maybe in what those supercharger stations are like, because they're all fairly new. They've been open less than a year.
Right.
So
I'll just interject that I did see the Whitewood, Saskatchewan supercharger.
Yeah.
Located at the back of a co-op gas station. And, you're out in the boonies, and whenever I see Tesla superchargers, I think it's just remarkable. If you're in the middle of nowhere, and I've been even nowhere than that, it's just amazing to see human ingenuity and the progression of technology and our beliefs of what the planet should be out in the wilderness like that.
No, it's a remarkable thing that Tesla did, and remarkable that they started building it so early. They knew early on that this was going to be one of the keys to success, and they were building all those stations when they hardly had any cars around. So it's kind of a miracle they didn't go bankrupt.
It is.
Because it was, and they really expanded rapidly with this belief that it was going to pay off. And of course, they did almost go bankrupt a couple of times. But no, it's a remarkable achievement.
Full disclosure, we're taping this show in advance, but I just want to say that Tesla stock is like $1,400. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Come on. That's insane.
Yeah.
And I almost bought a 200. I mean, why? I'll drop that crybaby story. But congratulations to you and your newfound wealth, and all hail our new leader of richest man in Saskatchewan, Brian Stockton.
Well, let's start with the news then, and I'll maybe start with the Tesla short story then. So of course, Tesla has always been one of the most shorted stocks in history. People betting that the stock is going to go down.
Which you could make money off of somehow.
It's like you have to borrow the shares from somebody with an agreement to pay them back at a certain date in the future. And if at that date in the future the price is lower, then you make money.
Yeah.
But if it's higher, you still have to buy the shares. So you can also lose a lot of money doing this. So the short bet against Tesla is reaching up towards $20 billion.
Whoa.
This is the largest it's ever been. But the reason it's so large is just because the stock price has been just going so high. So there's probably fewer people shorting the stock and even fewer shares. But because they're worth so much, it's, the Tesla short position is growing, not shrinking, even though the stock is going up.
So has there been any stories of people feeling that pain that Elon has been promising for some time?
Well, I don't think they like to talk about it publicly, but the shorts have...
They used to. When things go bad for Tesla, they talk a lot.
Yeah, but not when they're losing money. So the shorts have, so far in 2020, already lost about $20 billion.
Whoa. Well, let's take a moment of silence for them. It's always discouraging when people are betting against Tesla when, they're trying to do good, and they're an American company and an American success story built from the ground up in relatively short time, I think.
Oh, and a quick other note about my car, my Tesla. We had a huge thunderstorm about a week ago.
Explain this to me, because I'm trying to assess what happened to my yard.
Oh, yeah.
Was there
we
wind?
Didn't get the worst of it. There was some wind, but it wasn't the worst. Calgary got the worst. I don't know if you heard, but...
Well, Calgary had a horrible storm before I left. They had golf ball hail and, locusts and what the hell? What happened in Calgary?
It's now, it's the same storm, hail and everything, but they've pegged it at $1.2 billion in damage.
Whoa.
Making it the fourth largest natural disaster in Canadian history.
That's saying a lot, because we've had our natural disasters here. I mean, not as many as not hurricane level, but we've certainly had some expensive disasters for a small country, population-wise. Wow. And on top of the COVID and the oil and everything else, it's not good to be an Albertan right now, I would imagine.
Yeah. They're having a rough ride. But anyway, here's what happened. We had a really loud crack of thunder by our house, and it actually set the alarm off in the Tesla. The Tesla started beeping and going crazy.
Okay. What time was it?
We were still awake. It was like 9 o'clock or so. So I just had to pick up my phone. I immediately got an alert on my watch and an alert on my phone, and I just had to pick up the phone and kind of hit a button on the app to make it shut up. But I was just kind of surprised. The most advanced car in the world, and it was still fooled by a thunder crack into thinking, somebody was stealing the car.
Well, it's also a sound shockwave. I don't know if any of our listeners can comment on this. But, when you hear those really loud thunder things, we had plenty of storms out at the lake. I like saying the lake. And you can feel like a trembling, like a ground tremble.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's from the sound waves rocking the ground or rocking the building. So it's possible that the car was jarred by sound?
Yeah, that's probably it. This was maybe the loudest thunder crack I've ever heard in my life.
Well, there you go, Brian. You're a very, very advanced age person, and you've heard your share of thunder cracks, and this was the loudest, so I think that's saying something.
Absolutely.
Did you jump out of your skin? Was it that type of thing?
I definitely twitched. It was sort of like, when you get a little spook in a horror movie or something.
You didn't check the car for actual lightning strike, did you? Because
No, well, it was odd that it was so loud because, of course, you get the flash first, the flash of light.
Yeah.
And then, a second or two later, you get the sound because it's, the speed of sound is slower than the speed of light. So what was odd was it was definitely 2 or 3 seconds after the flash that we got the sound. So, I was just surprised it was so far away and yet still so loud.
Yeah. Well, I've had lightning strikes like that where I swear it's hit my house. Like there was no lag time. Well, this is daytime, so it's kind of hard to tell, but you would see a flash and a bang at the same time almost, and they jump right out of your skin. And and then you hear lots of car alarms go off in other places. And I assume that's not from, they're not sensitive to sound, they're sensitive to motion, right? Aren't they?
I guess so, yeah.
So it didn't capture it on the Tesla cam, did it?
Yes, because anytime there's an incident like that, it automatically saves that file on the the cam.
So if you were getting
called.
into your car and you were struck by lightning, there'd be good footage of it.
Yes, but I did go and find that video clip in case it was interesting. It wasn't that interesting. The flash didn't even seem that big.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one day you're going to get something very interesting on that dash cam, including on your exciting road trip to Vancouver. How many kilometers is that? I don't think we've talked about this.
It's about 1,700 kilometers. And yeah, it means that we are recording these episodes a little bit out of sequence, or this one's going to be recorded a few days before it's released, and then we'll record again when I get back.
But it's very exciting, and we look forward to the YouTube video where you're covering it. Now, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but there's new superchargers between us and Medicine Hat. Is that the story? Medicine Hat, Alberta, which is about 5 hours away or something.
Yeah, well, these are the ones that were open in the last year. There's Moose Jaw, there's Swift Current, and Maple Creek.
And you're going to use the, what app?
Well, there's a betterrouteplanner.com.
Is that what you're going to use?
Yes, and as well as the navigation in the car. But yeah, I don't have to stop at every supercharger, but I'm going to just so I can make the video.
Yeah, and you can get the experience of what that's like. Most of them are very short. A lot of them are very short, right? They're like 9 minutes, 13 minutes here. I was looking at your log a couple months ago when you ran the numbers. So that's nothing. I mean, you could stretch your legs in that time and get the blood flowing again to your prostate, and everything would be good.
No, and by the time I'm finished shooting the video, I'm worried I'm going to spend too long at the chargers.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, I never see people at the chargers. Maybe once or twice I've seen people at the chargers. But if you build them, they will come. And certainly with the pandemic, people are doing a lot less long-distance travel anyway, and that's what they're used for, is long-distance travel. Yeah. So have you any other thoughts? Is there new superchargers beyond Medicine Hat, between Medicine Hat and Vancouver through the Canadian Rockies that weren't there before?
No, I think those have all been there for a while, yeah.
So you're going to have to deal with version 2, which are a little slower than the version 3s, which we have the new ones here on the prairies. Okay.
But yeah, I think it's fine. And I've done all the research in terms of the pandemic. So I think I can do this with, minimal contact and following the rules. Each province has different rules about what you can do. And,
wipe down your Tesla supercharger cable afterwards.
And you know what I think my absolute favorite feature of the Tesla is?
What?
It's that you can open the charge port on the car by pressing the button on the charger.
Right.
It's the greatest thing ever.
Now, people think, that's just lazy. But if you're doing a task every day and it's not, and you're ready to, your mind is on something else that you're going to do in the house or whatever, it is a nice thing. Like even on the Leaf, I can open up the charge port door with the remote, which is very nice.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But
no, it's just a nice little detail that I love.
Yeah. So that's very exciting. We're very looking forward to the video on our YouTube channel, which is Clean Energy Show. I think you should search Clean Energy Show podcast on YouTube. And we have links on our podcast page, which is linked from our Twitter account, CLN Energy Show on Twitter, and cleanenergyshow@gmail.com. I'm just going to push this in right now, Brian, as we forge on with the show. And our YouTube channel, I don't know what the link is because they haven't given us a good link yet, but it's complicated. Anyway, what else do you have for us?
James,
yes,
it's time for the lightning round.
Oh my God, the lightning round. Well, I don't have any questions for you because I've been in nature at the lake.
Yes, well, I have questions. Well, I don't know if they're questions, but I had saved up a large number of browser tabs here, so I'll just go through a lot of these pretty quickly.
Oh, so I'm going to be the other end of the lightning round. So I'm going to be the commenter who hasn't necessarily heard the story. I'm going to give you my thoughts and we can discuss.
Or not. Okay, here we go. The first one. AllElectric is reporting on June 25th that Minnesota has filed a lawsuit against fossil fuel companies.
Minnesota, the government of Minnesota, as they've done, other jurisdictions have done with tobacco, which I don't know how much success did that have. It did, as far as advertising was concerned, it punished them, but did it really curb tobacco use?
Maybe a little bit, but the tobacco companies mostly moved overseas where they could make more money.
I didn't know that. Those bastards.
Yeah, they started pushing into other countries because they realized their market was likely shrinking here in North America.
So what effect will this have, Minnesota suing the fossil fuel industry?
Well, we'll see. It says that these companies violated Minnesota laws barring consumer fraud, deceptive trade practices, and false advertising.
So they're holding them to higher standards because the fossil fuel companies are weaselly because they're big, they're old, and they like to have their way. They're good at lobbying. They're good at getting their way with governments often. So this is a sign. Once, we've said it before, but when people start suing people, when governments start suing people, things start to change. So this could be, and North America is lagging behind Europe and other places. So this could be a good sign that things are progressing, even during the Trump era in the United States.
No, and they've spent a lot of money trying to obfuscate the climate science, and that's why we have a lot of people that don't believe in climate change, is because so much money has been spent by these people to protect their business.
I used to be amazed at how people don't believe in climate science, and now we have a pandemic, and they don't believe in that, and they're killing each other, and not surprising anymore. It's all coming clear.
Okay, the next story. Green Tech Media is reporting that PG&E gets on board with all-electric new buildings in California. So in California, they've passed a law that you're not going to be able to heat your buildings with natural gas.
What?
Within the next year or two.
That's significant. What happens in California spreads to the rest of the world in some cases. And this is something in Canada that we've talked about, and people always say, well, you're not going to heat with electricity. It's inefficient. It costs more. Electricity is going up in price. They're going to put even more demands on electricity. Electricity pollutes. And natural gas is so efficient and cheap, and it's already in place. So what we have to do to get to net zero buildings in Canada is have heat pumps and electric heating powered by an entirely green grid one day. And people are against that. But in California, they're forcing you to do that, which is surprising to me.
Yeah, and of course, it is a little easier in California because it's not as cold as here. But Northern California has actual cold
So heat
weather.
pumps work fine, but heat pumps are expensive, as you've found out yourself.
Yeah, well, it's a lot to do with, I don't know, we've got to rethink the efficiency around this. And there's rumors that Tesla is maybe going to come up with a home heating and cooling solution because previous ones have not been all that efficient, and they now have some experience making an efficient one for the Tesla Model Y.
I've not heard that rumor, Brian. That's big news to me.
Yeah, it's nothing concrete, but it would make sense. Tesla's making solar panels, they're making batteries for your house. It would make sense for them to come up with a more efficient heating and cooling system. So I'd say that's eventually in the cards. But yeah, a lot of it has to do with, I'm kind of obsessed with the efficiency of it because like we don't have air conditioning in our house here, but I work really hard to keep it cool, right? Like I open the windows at night, I have these exhaust fans, I cool down the house at night, and so it ends up there's only a couple of days a year where the house is really kind of too hot.
Do you have an attic in any part of your house?
There's a small attic in part of the house.
You ever thought of putting a whole house exhaust fan in there?
Oh yeah, that's my dream. That's my dream.
Dare to dream. Your dream was once to have a long-range electric vehicle. That has come true and will be documented in the upcoming video series on YouTube. I'm going to keep plugging it, Brian. This is huge news.
Yeah.
We have not sent a correspondent on the road for hundreds of kilometers before. It took a great deal of sponsorship and, actually, you're just using your free supercharger miles, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But here's my point is that, I don't know, all this stuff could be done more efficiently because like what often happens is somebody installs central air conditioning in their house and then they just get lazy about it and they just leave it on all the time. They leave it on all summer. When they don't really have to.
One of the neighbors at the lake it was running constantly. It was 21 degrees. It was running constantly.
No, and I've even done the same thing. If I've been in a house with central air, it's like, oh, should I check the weather and open up the windows? No, I'll just leave the air conditioning on.
It's funny.
You don't even think about it.
Around here, people just, they do that. And not only do they do that, but they put it on like 68 Fahrenheit where they would freeze in the wintertime and complain and die. But because they have this psychological effect that, no, I have to be cool because it's hot outside, they actually make it even colder. Yeah, I've had good success this year. I had the air conditioning on once because it was humid and we were doing some work indoors. But other than that, and we don't get a lot of humidity here. It's humidity that you can't get by. If you live at an elevation like we do and have dry air, it always cools down at night, which is a struggle when I'm trying to heat my pool with solar, because it just kills it if it goes down to like 8 or 9 Celsius instead of 15 or something. So but when it goes down.
I'm pleased to report that the humidity in my house is better since I installed the heat recovery ventilator, because it would sometimes get a little bit damp in the basement. Right. But now, because the whole house gets circulated properly, it doesn't seem to be damp in the basement anymore.
Well, that's good. And you're getting fresh air, and you're getting rid of the radon.
Yeah. No, it was a total smart thing to do. Absolutely.
Cool.
But here's my $1 million idea, because this is one of those things that drives me crazy in terms of efficiency. You know how like 5 months out of the year, it's frigid cold here where we live?
Yes, I'm aware.
It's always seemed crazy to me that we pay for electricity to cool our refrigerators.
Yes.
When there's ample cold air outside. And so for years, I've been trying to think of a way to invent a refrigerator that you can just somehow make use of that cold air. But this is all I've come up with. You want to hear my idea for a refrigerator? Well, I thought about putting in like pipes to the outside, but I think that's just too complicated. But the best I've come up with is like just freezer packs, right? Like you have like thin freezer packs that sort of fit on a shelf that don't take up too much room, that kind of slide in and slide out. And you take them outside when it's minus 40, you freeze them, you put them in your fridge, and then that would cool your fridge for the next day or two. And then once those have kind of warmed up a bit, then you just swap them with new ones.
Okay. Who's going to patent that? You? You're going to patent that?
I'm going to patent that unless one of our listeners wants to beat me to it.
Yeah, I think the problem is that not enough population of the world lives in a cold climate, especially very cold climates. Like even Norway's not that cold where most of the population lives compared to us.
True.
But I was thinking like a milk. You remember when we used to have milk slots in the houses?
Yeah, my house has one.
It does, eh? It's still, God, that's so amazing. Ours did not. What do they call them? Milk chutes or milk?
Milk chute? Although we had one guy thought it was a laundry door because it's in our laundry room at the back. So it might have been a door that you open up so that you can put your laundry out on a line, but I'm not sure. Interesting,
but it has to be, Brian, because why would you have a milk chute at the back of the house? The milkman, happy as he is, dressed all in white with his little hat in the 50s, is not going to walk around to the back of the house.
Probably not. It's probably a laundry door.
Damn it. Well, just keep fantasizing. Just keep hoping that it is. But yeah, if you had like just a compartment that accessed the outdoors, but then, you're not paying attention and suddenly it goes to +3 and everything rots, then I don't know.
Or you install your fridge on an outside wall of the house and there's just a door that you open up. So when it's cold, you just open that door at the back.
Sure.
And cool it that way or something like that.
I don't know. Something like that. Or maybe the refrigerant line can just go out the house. I don't know. Well, we'll work on that. Anyway, move on to your next thing because...
Okay, BYD launches the Tang electric SUV in Norway and plans to expand to Europe. So this is a small crossover EV, and I'm just scrolling down to find the price, around $36,000 US.
$36,000 for an SUV. That is all EV. What's the range?
82 kilowatt hour battery pack with a range of 482 kilometers, although that may be the optimistic number.
Well, that's still a pretty powerful pack for a car in that price range. That is that size, that form factor. Yeah, I've been waiting for a long time.
And I think we're finding that these cars are often going to Norway first.
Yeah, because they have the most stringent laws. They have, there's so many benefits. It would take a long time to list them. But yeah, everybody's buying electric cars in Norway. What is it now? Like 80% have a plug, even during the pandemic?
It's getting up there, yeah.
Yeah. So Tesla sales are up too during the pandemic, eh? Like, I was reading a story on that today.
Yeah, well, this is one of the reasons the stock price is going crazy is that, they were only down about 5% in their Q2 deliveries, whereas the rest of the auto industry was more like 20, 30, 40%.
They're just getting hammered. The regular.
Yeah, this is not a pretty time for the legacy automakers.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to more Chinese cars. BYD has been around since, I want to say, didn't, what's his name, Berkshire Hathaway guy invest in BYD in like 2007 or something, which is ancient history in the EV
that
world?
sounds right.
Yeah, he saw something there. And, I mean, they're making buses that are competitive now with natural, like diesel buses. They're selling them as fast as they can because people are actually saving money on them, and I'm hoping they come here too. And they also make cars. They also make trucks. They make BYD, I think, makes like a semi-truck that is operational in Vancouver for Loblaws Foods. It's short range. It's like 150 kilometers, 150.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of the semi-truck range is acceptable because you're just going from a warehouse to grocery store and stuff like that. So it works for them. Or from a shipping yard, which they have to do in California. They've outlawed combustion semis in the shipping yards there. So
yeah.
Anyway, looking forward to it. Does it look good?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty decent. Yeah.
Okay, I can't wait till we get one for 30,000. That's my goal.
And there's another quick story here. Transdev Lyon has a deal for 27 electric school buses being made in Quebec. So Quebec is known for building some electric school buses for some reason.
Yes, they are. In fact, I think there's more than one manufacturer making electric school buses in Quebec, which is they're probably getting. There's a rebate in Canada for electric school buses that was announced a year ago, I think, during the election. Yeah. Which is good.
As part of
so if you're buying a school bus and you're a school board or a private company that's supplying the school board, you can have that difference. Like, they're still more expensive, especially the ones made in Canada. But you can get that. There's so many benefits, Brian. Like the diesel is just a deadly fuel to send your kids off in a. My kids rode 45 minutes to French immersion school in a school bus because we were at the edge of the zone, and it's a long way to have diesel fuel fumes, and they're sitting around idling outside the school in -40, and you can't even breathe. It's just awful.
Yeah.
So that would just be lovely.
Okay, the next story. AllElectric is reporting that Toyota has cut their output of the RAV4 Prime plug-in hybrid for the U.S. to a laughable 5,000 units.
May Toyota rot in hell. May they get everything that they deserve from their lack of enthusiasm for EVs and their bullshit that they've put out into the world saying that the world is not ready for EVs and we'll get there when we want to. Screw them. And I drive a Toyota. So
they had an early lead and they blew it.
They have the technology. They were using the technology. In some ways, they were proving the technology with the Prius because the batteries were lasting the life of the car. The battery management system, which is important. They were on top of that. They were managing the battery so it would last the life of the car. And now they're just doing stuff like this. And the reviews are good for the RAV4. It handles really well, and it's more powerful than a non-EV RAV4. And the RAV4 is probably, I'm guessing, one of the top one or two crossover EV, SUV that there is out there. It's the Honda CR-V and the Toyota RAV4 is very popular. And they've made a good car, and they're not selling the damn thing. So I'm mad as hell. There, I said it.
Yeah, considering how many units they sell, 5,000 plug-in hybrids is a tiny, tiny number.
Yes, and it's got decent range. I can't remember the range. I think it's, oh God, what is it? It's decent. See, the RAV4, they call it the Prime, the RAV4 Prime, just like the Prius Prime.
Yeah.
Has a plug-in in, and it has 40 kilometers range. I think this has an even better range, even though it's a bigger vehicle. So, and it's more manageable than 40. So you'll not be using gas very often in most situations. So that's very disappointing. Hell, if I had money, I'd be considering something like that. And I'm just continually disappointed. Even the mechanics at the dealership were talking about how it was coming out. They were aware of it a year ago. And they were saying how it has more torque and more horsepower. And so that if nothing else, it'll impress the people who sell these things that these are good technology and that they're actually an improvement on combustion vehicles. That's my take.
Okay, on to the next story. Bloomberg is reporting that Tesla overtakes Exxon's market value in symbolic energy shift.
That is symbolic, isn't it? I mean, Exxon, not exactly a small company. Tesla, tiny, has more market value than Exxon. I mean, we could all see that coming one day, but I would have said 10 years from now. Are you surprised?
Yeah, there was Bloomberg made a video as well recently that I watched. It's called How Fracking Became America's Money Pit.
For every dollar they brought in, they'd be spending $1.10 or $1.20 or $1.50. This has always been the Achilles heel of the business.
The oil sector always needs to be very careful about the level of investment it makes and the cash returns to investors.
The investment community did not finance the shale revolution out of the goodness of their hearts. I think they liked the idea of U.S. energy independence, but they wanted returns, and for the most part, they haven't come.
There has never been a better decade for growing U.S. oil and gas production. And yet, what was the worst performing sector in the S&P 500? Energy. That tells you a lot about this sector.
26 U.S. oil and gas producers have filed for bankruptcy this year.
This is the story of how shale went from revolution to a bottomless money pit.
And I watched this. It's a 16-minute video, and now I feel like an expert on the topic. But it goes through the history of, like, fracking started with natural gas in the U.S., and they realized, oh, we can get lots more natural gas if we do this fracking. And it worked, and they thought, oh, maybe we can try this with oil. And you can use fracking and you can get more oil. But the gist of this video is that it did work, but the outlay of cash was not commensurate with the outlay of, how much oil that they got out of this. So a lot of the oil companies are in bad financial shape because they've spent a lot of money on these expensive fracking operations. And it hasn't really paid off, especially in this era of current low oil prices, which is a problem for all of them.
Yeah. This has got to be concerning for the oil industry when they see that EV sales are doing so much better compared to combustion sales when times get tough, which is surprising to me as well. But it's the future. And when we come out of this, and it's going to take some time, it could literally be over surprisingly soon for the oil industry. Like it may not cover. I'm even getting messages from our provincial governments in Alberta and Saskatchewan that they're starting to become aware of this. I guess when you have $20 a barrel oil occasionally, or whatever, negative numbers, actually went to negative numbers briefly, it wakes you up and opens your mind to possibilities.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I've got one last lightning round story for you. India's $18,000 Totten Exxon EV points to global EV affordability. So this is yet another crossover type of electric vehicle. It's coming out of India.
Okay, let me stop you there. India is known for its two-wheeled and three-wheeled individual and small transport vehicles, often highly polluting. And I did see a story on electric ones, which were using electric lead acid batteries. So I'm surprised that it's not a compact, subcompact car. Now, is it for the middle class in India, the upper middle class, or the, because that seems like an odd choice to go in India, of all places, would be even beyond China, that a large car is what they're going to make.
It is a very small. I'm looking at the picture. It looks more like a Chevy Bolt kind of size.
Okay.
30 kilowatt hour battery pack, and very reasonable. So it's not super long range either. But yeah, India's a little bit new to the EV game, from what I understand. Yes. And but this is maybe the vehicle that's going to change that.
Now, the Prime Minister a couple of years ago had declared that there would be no more combustion sales as of 2030.
I don't recall.
It's something like that. I might even been 2025. No, I think it was 2030. And so that was kind of the first big, whoa, governments are getting really active in this. And then they changed. The industries kept saying, well, we can't meet that because the technology's not there. Well, we will never have enough EVs for everyone. I disagree. I think that we're 10 years away from that now, and we're doing very well right now. It's only going to be crazy in 10 years from now. It's going to be everything's going to be electrified and cheap. The trajectory says cheap.
Yeah, for sure.
By the way, I did read an article this morning about bifacial solar panels, and I didn't realize that bifacial meant that they actually pick up the light from the ground.
Yeah, they just put the collectors on both sides.
I thought there was like 2 layers of collectors, but it's actually on both sides. And they said that the best situation for that is snow. So I wish that in Canada that we would, have a small they should be making small operations testing this stuff to prove it to themselves of different things, different technologies. And we should be doing that here because we have many months of snow cover and lots of sunlight to go with it. So,
no, if you had a ground-mounted system, you'd get tons of bounce back from the snow in the winter. That's absolute natural for you.
And I would imagine it would be pretty significant, like even more than other places, because we have pure white snow here, and the sun hits it many hours a day, many hours a month. And by the way, my June wasn't very good for my solar panels. How about you?
It was a little bit down. Yeah,
it was a cloudy month. Too cloudy. All right. Well, what else do you have? Anything else?
No, that's about it. I do have a few more, but this chair in my bomb shelter studio, as you know, is very
limited to a 45-minute show usually.
Yeah, I think we got to wrap it up.
All right. Well, Brian, I'm just going to say one more thing. I did get the hitch on my Leaf. For those of you who have been following the story of me putting a trailer hitch on my Leaf, a Class 1 hitch, to put a bike rack on, I finally got it on. It was a crap show dealing with U-Haul, but they actually took $50 off without me asking. I didn't even complain or frown. Well, I probably frowned. And they took $50 off, so it was like $200. And that is a good deal for me to get bikes. And you can put for the heaviest bikes you can imagine. There's no question. There's no if, ands, or buts. There's no worry. It is on there solidly. And hell, I could tow a trailer with it, small trailer.
That's exciting.
I could go to U-Haul and I could rent like a cargo trailer and go to a store and buy a king size bed or furniture, and haul it around in my Leaf. Wow. And I might do that. The wiring's not there for the lights, but I might do that just for the heck of it one day. Anyway, Brian, it's been great. I'm sorry to our listeners that we've been a bit inconsistent because of the summer vacation season, but we will return next week with Brian's exciting, and I'm going to lose sleep over this, Brian, exciting stories of you on the road by yourself. This is not something we pointed out. You are going as a correspondent by yourself.
Yes.
Into the countryside during a pandemic in your Tesla to research and to give us stories for the Clean Energy Show. You people listening on the edge of your seats, tune in and check out our YouTube channel, which we'll be reminding about you next week. Brian, it's been fun. Thanks very much.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week.